This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Yunxiao's body trembled. No matter how hard he tried, he could not break through the martial emperor's full-force suppression. His face was cold as he said, "What's going on?" Yuan Bo laughed bitterly and shook his head. "I was ambushed, but I didn't expect you to still be alive. Why don't I have such a great life?" Yunxiao's face was livid, and his eyes were burning with anger as he growled, "Who is it? Who did this?" "I can't tell you with your current strength," Yuan Bo sighed, "but you'll be able to find out when you have the strength to." However, he hesitated for a moment before he warned, "But I have to remind you that you must be on guard against Ding Ling." "What?" Yunxiao's body trembled violently, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. When the name rang in his ears, it almost burst his eardrums and shook his heart. The impact on his mind was even more intense than the pain he had suffered physically. The martial sovereign's attack had finally landed. His eyes widened as he tried to grab Yuan Bo, but he was powerless. A huge light bloomed in front of him. He tried to grab it a few times, but he could not grab anything. Last year, the purple ribbon and the green gate, tonight, the ice and soul of the cloud, the life is broken and scattered, for thousands of years, and the next year, where the song of the wild drinks, who is it left for? Yuan Bo's figure grew fainter and fainter in the light, leaving behind only the soft sound of a poem that resounded in the night sky. It carried with it a longing for life and a sigh, before finally dissipating. Yunxiao's pupils became empty and lifeless. He waved his hand, but all of them missed. Seeing Yuan Bo turn into ashes, the white-robed man finally let out a sigh of relief. His face turned cold as he snorted, "We still haven't been able to capture him. However, it's better to die than to escape. Let's go," he shouted as he clenched his right hand. The golden tadpole-like character instantly disappeared in the air. He then pushed his left and right palms out, pushing away young Emperor Hao Lian. His body flashed in the air as he stood high up in the air. The two martial sovereigns also suddenly returned behind him, and the three of them looked down coldly. The white-robed man said indifferently, "I'm sorry to have disturbed you all during the lonely night. Let's continue to rest, there's still the martial arts competition tomorrow." The two martial sovereigns behind him sneered disdainfully. The three of them flashed in the air and their figures slowly faded before they finally disappeared into the sky. The entire night fell silent. Young Master Yun, Mo Xiaochuan and Hao Huang rushed over. When Hao Huang saw Yunxiao's cold face and empty eyes, he cried out in surprise, "Young Master Yun, are you all right?" Yunxiao stood there in a daze, as if he had lost his soul. Obviously, what had happened just now had a great impact on him, and he could not come back to his senses. Mo Xiaochuan and Xiao Huang Halian exchanged a glance, both unable to hide the shock in their hearts. Something that could make Yunxiao suffer such a huge shock was definitely not simple. "Who was that soul shadow just now?" Mo Xiaochuan asked cautiously. Yunxiao's empty eyes gradually recovered, and his dilated pupils began to shrink rapidly. The light in them became extremely condensed and cold, making the two of them feel a chill and tremble. "Pai Li Pa La." Yunxiao suddenly clenched his fists, and a series of bone-cracking sounds rang out. The air was compressed and exploded layer by layer. In a deep voice, he hissed, "Yuan Bo. Arg. It's him." Both of them trembled and looked at each other in horror. They finally understood where Yunxiao's anger came from. The person who had just been killed in front of his eyes was actually his good friend from the past. The two of them had too many questions in their minds. If it was Yuan Bo, why would he appear here? And he was killed so easily? Young Master Yun. A large number of warriors swarmed in from the outside. They were all from Tianyuan Trading Company. They had been directly shaken out by the martial emperor in the fight just now. Although they were all injured to varying degrees, none of them died. Ding Ling and Yunxiang, in particular, took the lead and came forward to hold Yunxiao's arms. At the same time, they felt the murderous aura coming from him. They trembled and looked at Mo Xiaochuan and Halian Xiaohuang with questioning eyes. Mo Xiaochuan and Xiaohuang Halian both frowned. There were too many people around at the moment, so it was inconvenient for them to say anything, so they remained silent. Suddenly, Yunxiao stared at Ding Ling and said coldly, "When you guys rushed in just now, the martial sovereign attacked with one move. Did anyone die?" Ding Ling's heart trembled. Yunxiao's cold eyes were like a bone-piercing cold knife, piercing into her heart and causing her to feel an inexplicable pain. Although she did not know what was going on, she had never seen the coldness and indifference in Yunxiao's eyes. She suddenly felt as if she had fallen into an ice cellar, and her heart broke into pieces. Her whole body was cold, and she was so scared. She panicked and said in a trembling voice, "I don't think there's any Qianqian." "Why are you asking Qianqian this, young Master Yun?" The coldness in Yunxiao's eyes grew even colder as he said, "Your subordinates are very strong. None of them died from the martial sovereign's move?" Ding Ling's face was ashen and bloodless. She didn't know how to answer, but her body couldn't help but shiver, feeling colder and colder. Yunxiang also noticed that something was wrong. The coldness from Yunxiao's hands had spread to her body, and it was also a chill. But at that moment, a wave of warmth gushed out of the divine body of Nine Yang, which directly dissolved the coldness and even transmitted it into his body through his hands. Feeling the warmth, Yunxiao frowned slightly. The ruthlessness in his body was reduced, and the coldness in his eyes was gradually dispelled. He also felt that his question was a little too much, so he sighed and said, "I'm a little confused. I need some time alone. You guys leave first." Ding Ling felt a burst of sourness, and big tears rolled down her face. She pursed her lips and tried not to cry. Yunxiao no longer paid attention to the crowd. He turned and entered the cabin, then closed the door. Other than Mo Xiaochuan and Xiaohuang Halian, everyone else was confused. They stood there in a daze, and a few of them were even angry and could not help but complain. "Young Master Yun, what do you mean by that? We rushed over as soon as we saw the situation on his side. From what he said, it seemed like he couldn't wait for us to be beaten to death. It was so infuriating." "That's right. Although everyone's strength is low, it's because they admire him and admire Chairman Ding that they risk their lives to come here, but he actually said such heart-chilling words. If something like this happens again, I'll turn over and continue sleeping. Even Chairman Ding was so good to him, but he made him cry. This man is really unreasonable. Next time, no one is allowed to come." Mo Xiaochuan and Halian Xiaohuang furrowed their brows when they heard their complaints. Just as they were about to explain, Ding Ling suddenly spoke up and said calmly, "There's a reason for this, and I can understand everyone's feelings, but we don't know what exactly happened just now. Please don't complain because of your performance and doubt young Master Yun. All of you should be clear about young Master Yun's way of handling things after getting along these days. There must be something we don't know about this." Her tears were still on her face, but she was unusually calm when she said these words, and no light could be seen in her eyes. "Well, Chairman Ding is right. Young Master Yun seems to have suffered a great blow. There must be something more to this. Let's disperse, everyone. We'll definitely be able to see the light. Young Master Yun still has a martial arts competition tomorrow, so let him calm down for a while." Ding Ling's prestige was extremely high, and as soon as she spoke, people responded. The crowd gradually dispersed, leaving only Ding Ling, Mo Xiaochuan, and the other two. Luo Yunxiang stepped forward and held Ding Ling's arm slightly. When the crowd finally dispersed, Ding Ling's body trembled, and tears fell from her big eyes again. "Don't be sad, Sister Ling," Yunxiang quickly comforted her. "Didn't you just say that young Master Yun must have a secret?" Ding Ling nodded slightly. Even so, when she thought of Yunxiao's strange look just now, her heart was filled with fear and coldness, as well as extreme helplessness. Luo Yunxiang looked at Mo Xiaochuan and Mo Liuxi and said, "What happened just now?" "I'm not too sure about the whole story," Mo Xiaochuan sighed. "It's just that one of young Master Yun's old friends was killed in front of him just now." "Eh?" The two women were shocked, and their eyes showed horror. Ding Ling's aggrieved mood was also cast aside at once, and she listened carefully. Mo Xiaochuan explained the situation in detail. In fact, the entire incident had happened in a very short time. He had only struck out with his sword twice, and in just 2 strikes, Yuan Bo had been killed. Yuan Bo. Why is the 3rd elder of Myriad Treasures store asking young Master Yun for help in our courtyard? Ding Ling asked in surprise. Myriad Treasures store has Cui Bo and 3 elders in charge at the moment. If he goes to Myriad Treasures store's encampment, I'm afraid no one can hurt him, right? The crowd was also very puzzled. Yunxiang frowned and said, from what you've said, Yuan Bo was already a soul when he escaped, which means that the enemy was abnormally strong. Even his physical body was destroyed long ago, which is indeed strange. Furthermore, to be able to kill Yuan Bo's men in Songhua Yang City without a sound, it's truly a terrifying guess. The 3 of them were shocked. They had all understood the meaning behind Yunxiang's words. There were indeed only a few people with such strength. Mo Xiaochuan's expression was grave. Furthermore, Yuan Bo fled here to seek help from young Master Yun. He didn't go to Myriad Treasures store. Could the person who killed him be from Myriad Treasures store? He asked. Your analysis makes sense, but how do you explain what the man in white said about his master's order? Young Emperor Hulian shook his head. Mo Xiaochuan knocked on his forehead and said thoughtfully, that's exactly what I can't figure out. The man in white did say that our master ordered us not to kill anyone here. He seems to be taking good care of Tianyuan Trading Company. He looked at Ding Ling with a strange expression. What? Yunxiang's pupils constricted as she said angrily, Mo Xiaochuan, what's with that look? Mo Xiaochuan smiled bitterly and turned his face away. I can't help but make the association. Ding Ling's body trembled, and she said in a trembling voice, young Master Yun, are you suspecting me because of this? It's not just that. Mo Xiaochuan sighed. If I'm not mistaken, before Yuan Bo's soul was destroyed, he was afraid that young Master Yun was not strong enough to seek revenge, so he refused to tell you the whole story. Instead, he only mumbled. He stopped talking, as if he was hesitating whether to tell you or not. Yuan Bo is indeed a man of character, Luo Yunxiang said. He's extremely thoughtful. Someone who could kill him so easily. Even if young Master Yun went there now, he would probably be in danger. But what? Can you not keep us in suspense? You didn't hear it wrong, young Emperor Hulian said with a wry smile. I heard it too. Before Yuan Bo died, he did tell young Master Yun to be on guard against Ding Ling. Be on your guard against me. Ding Ling was dazed for a moment and mumbled to herself, I've only met Yuan Bo a few times, and I don't have any deep friendship or hatred with him. Why did he frame me before he died? Young Master Yun won't believe me no matter what. Luo Yunxiang was also surprised. She grabbed Ding Ling's hand and said, Sister Ling, don't worry too much. There must be some misunderstanding. We all believe you. Ding Ling shook her head bitterly and said, Yuan Bo was also an expert of his generation, and he was also young Master Yun's good friend from his previous life. The words he said before his death must have been pointed at something, and it couldn't have been for no reason. Young Master Yun must now think that I'm the murderer. No wonder he asked if there were any casualties, and the fact is that the person did show us mercy. This is also the most troublesome part. Mo Xiaochuan asked, who's the master that the white-robed man was referring to? Or an old friend of Tianyuan Trading Company? Not only did they not kill a single person, but they were also concerned about tomorrow's martial arts competition. Could it be that they're deliberately misleading us and causing us to split up internally? It's possible that they're working together to create a diversion, young Emperor Hulian said, but what do you mean by what Yuan Bo said before he died? Could it be that Yuan Bo was also tricked by them? This matter is too strange, Luo Yunxiang said. There will definitely be an answer in the future. We will definitely believe you, Sister Ling. As for young Master Yun, this must have been a huge blow to him. No one would be able to accept the fact that he could only watch his good friend die helplessly, just like when he was in Yanwu. She stopped talking, as if she had touched a string in her heart. She looked at the small house with some worry. Ding Ling also knew what she meant, so she fell into silence all of a sudden. Then, she changed the topic and said, I'm afraid young Master Yun won't be participating in tomorrow's martial arts competition. Well, he has done enough for Tianyuan Trading Company. At this moment, she suddenly felt that the matter of the Chamber of Commerce was no longer so important. Her heart was empty and had no one to rely on. Luo Yunxiang frowned and said firmly, Don't worry, young Master Yun will definitely come around tomorrow. We believe in her, just like how we believe in you. Ding Ling glanced at them. All three of them looked determined and had a slight smile on their faces. She felt warm in her heart, and her empty heart was finally at ease. Yunxiao had heard the conversation of the four men clearly in the cabin. He knew that there was something fishy about it, but Yuan Bo's death had dealt him a great blow, and the sense of powerlessness he felt was no different from when he was in Yanwu. He could only watch helplessly as his disciples and friends were captured or killed. All of this happened right in front of him. He could only watch helplessly as he watched. He hated this feeling. In his previous life, he was arrogant and domineering. Although he was not invincible and could do whatever he wanted, he only wanted one heart in everything. Even if he was no match, at least he had the strength to fight back. He was able to fight for anything. But these 2 times, he was not even qualified to fight. This was because the difference in strength was simply too great. Although he was usually arrogant and domineering, he could only be considered a hero among the younger generation. When he encountered the true experts of this continent, he was simply not worthy of being on the stage. What we seek in the martial path is nothing more than to let ourselves soar in the 9 heavens, and there is nothing under the sky that can restrain us. He would let his family and friends have shelter, and no one would dare to touch him under the sky. Everything that he cared about him could live freely and with dignity. Dignity, living. Yunxiao murmured the 2 words as he disappeared into the Divine Realm tablet in a flash. Cultivation, crazy cultivation. At this moment, the only way he could vent the hatred in his heart and relieve the pain in his heart was to cultivate like crazy. The next day, at the break of dawn, the martial arts competition began in the central square. Strictly speaking, it was already the 2nd day of the martial arts competition. However, only the 7 great merchant associations had participated in this competition, and they were the focus of attention of tens of thousands of people. The arrangement of the martial arts competition was the same as the technique competition. Only the 7 chambers of commerce and some scattered seats were given to the martial supreme realm experts. The rest of the people, regardless of whether they were the leaders of the chambers of commerce or peak martial venerables, had to stand obediently. The location of the final battle was a 9th-tier profound armament, Heavenly Star's glittering jewel plate. This Tiangang enamel plate itself was a profound level weapon that was specially refined for duels. Its shape was extremely exquisite and beautiful. It was refined by combining more than 300 of the world's most solid objects. When enlarged, it looked like a majestic arena. The base was composed of 7 layers, and each layer was engraved with an extremely powerful array to protect the profound level weapon from being damaged by cultivators during a fight. No one knew when this Tiangang enamel plate was made. There were 2 of them, one in the Merchant Union's hands, and the other in the Holy Region. The Heaven and Earth Power ranking list had been won on another Tiangang enamel plate decades ago. However, it had been completely destroyed in the advancement battle between the top 50 and the top 20. Now, this unique existence was the only one left in the entire realm of heavenly martial arts. Chui Bo and the others took out the heavenly armor enamel plate together. Suddenly, the space froze, and a vigorous force spread out from the array of several people. A piece of Xian artifact the size of an ink stick slowly enlarged under the joint efforts of everyone. It was revealed in the center, and waves of ancient and surging weapon essence made everyone hold their breath under this majestic and solemn power, and they were in awe. Boom, boom, boom. The formation plate descended and pressed down on the ground, causing dust to rise into the sky and blinding everyone. 4 tall warrior statues stood in 4 corners, displaying different moves. Some clenched their fists, some struck out with their palms, and some formed seals with both hands. All of them were tall and mighty, giving off an extremely domineering feeling. Chui Bo flew in and was the first to step on the heavenly oyster's glittering jewel plate. As he scanned the area, the entire place fell into silence. The martial arts competition of the Merchant Union has officially begun, he said in a clear voice with a smile. First, the leaders of each chamber of commerce will draw lots. A graceful and charming young lady walked up with a golden disc. On top of it were rows of small round balls that flickered with green light. Chui Bo laughed. The drawing is made of aquamarine. No one can use their spiritual sense to check it. The leaders of the 7 chambers of commerce have checked it. There's no problem. He flicked his finger and shot out a stream of energy onto the golden disc. The 20 small green balls on it instantly flew into the air and began to spin in the air above the Tianji enamel disc. 20 leaders, please draw. More than a dozen figures rose into the air and grabbed the small ball in the air. Then, they landed on the jade plate. There was only one left. Chui Bo raised his hand and flew down. A ray of light shot out and landed on the enamel plate, forming a water screen. The 20 golden names flickered on it. He smiled and said, "Everyone, please announce the numbers." The people on the stage opened their numbers one by one, their eyes constantly scanning the hands of others to find the first person to fight. To everyone's surprise, everyone's eyes immediately focused on Ding Ling's hand, only to see a pink and white fist. Miss Ding, the powerful man chuckled. You seem to be a little absent-minded. Could it be that the number plate in your hand is a death sign? Ding Ling withdrew her gaze from the empty seat in the middle of the seats of Tianyuan Trading Company and said coldly, the one who will die? Which group could kill Tianyuan Trading Company? Is it you? Elder Quan. Her words were extremely cold, and her eyes were also cold. Everyone was shocked. This was completely different from Ding Ling's gentle and elegant character. It was as if a sharp knife was hidden under her beautiful appearance, and it began to reveal its sharp edge. The powerful citizen was stunned for a moment, then he chuckled and said, Miss Ding, you're very angry. I don't think Li Yunxiao has shown up yet. Has something happened? It seems that your in-laws are not here either, Ding Ling said coldly. Elder Quan doesn't care about his own affairs, but he is quite concerned about Tianyuan Trading Company. Chen Feng was also absent from the Mando Chamber of Commerce's seats. Even Shui Luoyan was nowhere to be seen. The powerful man's face stiffened, and traces of anger appeared. Right now, he hated people talking about the word in-laws the most, which really made him feel embarrassed. He fiercely said, there is no need for Miss Ding to worry about this. I hope Yunxiao doesn't run into Chen Feng later, or it'll be a small matter if he loses, but it'll be no fun if he dies. He raised the number ball in his hand, and with a flash of green light, the number 6 appeared. An old man on the stage immediately paled. He shook his head in frustration, sighing at his terrible luck. He raised the number plate in his hand. It was also number 6. A sense of helplessness rose in his heart. If he were to face Chen Feng, he would definitely die. The rest of the people were also very nervous, fearing that they would encounter Chen Feng, Li Feiyu, and Yunxiao, who were the favorites to win the championship. In fact, even if they encountered the disciples of the 7 great merchant alliances, they would still die. The remaining 13 families could only hope that they would meet each other and be able to hold on for a few more rounds. Ding Ling slowly opened her hands, and there was a big 7 on the small green ball. Many people heaved a sigh of relief, but a representative of the Chamber of Commerce stared at Ding Ling's hand with a livid face. Her face was as cold as ice. She was also holding a 7 number plate in her hand. The raw material of the green cloud stone had been deformed by her 5 fingers after pouring essence force into it.